So one of the hobbies I have, I don't get to do it that often because it's super expensive, is skydiving. I love jumping out of a plane and jumping out of a perfectly good airplane and enjoying that minute of free fall that you get. It's an amazing experience, and there's nothing like walking to that edge of the plane and then being willing to throw yourself out. Like, have you ever had that experience where you go to a cold pool and you stand on the edge and you have to like will yourself to jump into the water? It's so hard. Multiply that times like 10. That's skydiving. So one time I was trying to take a group, I was in the seminary still, so I was trying to take a group of seminarians, and some of them wanted to do it, some did not. They all wanted to do it, but I think most of them were a little bit terrified of doing it. And so they were trying to get out of it. And so the place that we were at, it was near the water, near the ocean, and I wanted to jump out over the ocean because I hadn't done that before. And the morning of the skydive, they all chickened out. They were just like, we're not going, we can't do it. And so I didn't tell them this, but on our drive back home, I found another place on the ocean about 2 hours north that had skydiving. And I was like, guys, I'll take the first shift, let me drive. So we're driving there, and I pull off the exit, and they don't know where I'm going. And next thing you know, we end up at this place for skydiving. And we get there, and it's about 5 or 6 of us seminarians. And I had gone a number of times, so I just wanted to watch the other guys jump out first. So I stayed on the plane, and I went after everybody. But I stayed on the plane, and one by one, they went out and they jumped. And the funniest moment was one of my priest friends, Father Joe, who is a military chaplain, by the way, now. But Father Joe got ready to go jump out of the plane, and they count you down. You know, they say 3, 2, 1, jump. Okay, so Father Joe's at the edge of the plane, and they count him down, and he goes 3, 2, 1, jump. And he locked his hands on the side of the plane so that he couldn't physically go out of the plane. They did it again. 3, 2, 1, jump. Puts his hands up like they're on the side of the plane, braces himself so he can't go out. Third time, finally, he got the willpower. 3, 2, 1, and they jumped out of the plane. The funny thing is, when we got down on the ground, I was asking Joe, who's Father Joe now, I said to him, what happened? And he goes, Mike, I'm going to tell you what, I had every intention of jumping out of the plane. I thought I was going to jump out of it. When he said 3, 2, 1, I was ready to jump, and my body just wouldn't let me. My body went like that, and I was totally stuck. So I was thinking about the gospel today, where Jesus says, I have the power to lay my life down, and I have the power to raise it up again. So in skydiving, all you do to lay your life down is you simply have to take that step and jump. Now here's the thing, when you jump, there's no going back. Like once you step out of that plane, you're free falling for a minute, and you're hoping the parachute opens. That's it. Jesus says, I have this power to lay my life down and to take it up again. And so he's talking ultimately about dying for the sheep, dying for us, that when he was crucified, he would ultimately give himself. You know, when he was arrested, there was no turning back. From that moment on, he had lost complete human power. He still had the divine power, but he let that totally go. And from that point forward, from the arrest forward until the crucifixion, he was laying his life down. Now, you know, on the cross, there were one of the thieves was talking to him and said, you're God. Why don't you just come down from the cross? And he could have, because he is God. But he had the power to lay his life down. He had the power to sacrifice himself. The other thing with skydiving, if you get more advanced, you get to watch what's called an altimeter. So when you get a certain height above the ground, you have to pull the parachute. And so in a sense, you know, at that moment, you have to make the choice and pull a parachute, and next thing you know, it's like going up because you're just flying down, and all of a sudden, it seems like you're going up in the air because the parachute stops you. So I think about that. There's 2 moments in skydiving. The moment where you jump out of the plane is like laying down your life. You're just totally surrendering, and then the next moment is you're opening the parachute. You're taking your life up again. So Jesus obviously suffered and died in the crucifixion. He laid his life down. But then he had the power to take it up again. So we hear that after the 3 days in the tomb, he rises from the dead. And he goes to his all the disciples and shows him, look, I'm risen. I have the power to take it up again. Now in baptism, each and every one of you, and myself included, we are baptized into Jesus. We are one with him in baptism. And so we have that same power to lay down our lives and to take it up again. I was talking to my sister recently because we were just talking about married life and priesthood, and I said one of the things that I decided in the seminary was that if I got ordained and when I got ordained, I would tell myself that I was freely choosing it. And so I could never, my rule is I could never, from the time I got ordained until the time I die, I could never be resentful about being ordained because I freely chose it. And so going on 14 years right now, so far it's been that way. I've never one day in my life been resentful for, not having a family or not having children or all the other sacrifices that you make because I freely chose it. And I think a lot of times in our lives, we slide into situations. I know this even from preparing married couples. One of the things that we have to help a couple not do is slide into marriage. A lot of couples in this day and age, they're dating, and then the next thing you know, they're living together, and the next thing you know, they're like, well, we're living together, we might as well get married. And they never really make that choice to get married. They just kind of slide into it. And then about 5 years into it, they go, what did I do? It's like that with a lot of choices in our lives. Sometimes we slide into decisions that we never really make, and then we become resentful. The truth is, with all of our choices, we have to make that choice to dive fully into it. So Jesus had the power to lay his life down. We have the power to jump out of that plane and to lay our lives down. But ultimately, you got to make the choice. And this can be from anything. High school students, this could be, what college you're going to go to. Freely make that choice. Don't just go into there because your parents want you to, or don't go, make the choice to what you want to do with the rest of your life. When you're deciding on your career, make a choice. Do it with God and decide full-heartedly that that's what you're going to do with your life. There's also bad choices that you don't want to make, you know what I mean? So don't slide into the bad choices of drugs and drinking and whatever else it may be that could totally destroy your life because you maybe didn't really make the choice, but you slid into it. Married couples, you're it. If you got married, you're married, So for the rest of your life, why be resentful? You made the choice. Love your wife, love your husband through good times and in bad, through sickness and health. Be totally 100% committed. Jump out of the plane. Don't try to hold yourself back. Because if we're not fully committed, we're going to be resentful. And then I look at the taking your life up again. So when you pull the parachute and all of a sudden you go up, there's going to be times in our lives where God calls us to a resurrected life. So he may be calling you out of some form of sin in your life. Don't just be kind of lukewarm about it. Oh, one of these days I'll give it up. One of these days I'll quit. One of these days, I'll be kinder. One of these days I'll be more patient. Pull the chute. Rise. Live the life of the resurrected life that God has called you to. The worst thing for us to be is halfway or paralyzed or stuck. We have to completely, with Jesus, lay down our life. He gives us the power within and through him to lay it down. So I just want you to think about that. How are you being called to lay your life down right now? How are you being called to lay it down? And is there any way you're being called to rise with him? You can't do it on your own. We cannot overcome sin on our own, but in, with, and through him, we have his power to rise. And so how are you being called to live in this resurrected life. Just as Jesus had the power to lay his life down and to rise it up again, so do you. And so unlike my friend Father Joe, who was paralyzed at jumping out of the plane and put his hands like this, hopefully, and it might take a few tries, hopefully, each and every one of us can take that jump out of the plane, lay our lives down so that we may, at some point, pull the chute and take it up again.